Hi, I'm Maya.
Hi, I'm Georgia.
And this is Ningaloo Outlook. Georgia and I are university students who share a love of books, the beach, and most of all, turtles.
Especially if they're tiny.
Travel with us deep below the waves to explore what hidden treasures lie among the reef, whales, turtles, and fauna.
A special thanks to CSIRO, Woodside, and the Ningaloo Reef research team for chatting with us about the magic of the reef.
So let's dive into it.
In this episode, we are joined by Dr. Mat Vanderklift to talk about turtles. Totally Awesome Matt is a marine ecologist whose research focuses on coastal ecosystems. He is the senior principal research scientist on the Ningaloo Reef. Welcome, Matt. It's so nice to have you here.
Totally awesome to be here, by the way. Thanks for inviting me.
We'll be discussing turtles, which I'm very excited about because they're super cute turtles.
Why it's adorable.
Right, so figured we might as well just start with, so what sort of turtles do you actually see on the Ningaloo Reef? And then how do you sort of distinguish them if there's different species?
There are, six is the answer. In the world, there's 7. So to find 6 at Ningaloo is already pretty good. But to be honest, there's only really 3 that you're going to see on any given day.
Okay, yep.
And if we're driving around in a boat and we see 100 turtles, probably 98 of them are going to be green turtles.
Okay.
One's going to be a loggerhead. One's going to be a hawksbill.
Right.
So mostly we're talking about green turtles.
Yeah, green turtles. Okay. Has there ever been a day where you've seen like all 6?
There are some that I've never seen.
Wow.
So there's something called a leatherback turtle. And leatherback turtles are on my bucket list. They're supposed to be really, really cool. They're like 2 meters long.
Oh, wow.
And they have been seen at Ningaloo, but I have never seen one.
Oh, I see. Does that annoy you a little bit?
Yeah. More than a little bit.
Oh no. Do you wake up every day hoping that this will be the day that you see it?
Yeah, I know. I get totally jealous if someone tells me, oh, yeah, I saw a leatherback. So, on my bucket list, one day I'm going to go to a leatherback nesting beach and visit that. That'd be like, imagine like seeing a bus drive up the beach and lay an egg. That's basically what it is. That'd be so cool.
That'd be amazing.
Yeah.
The green turtles, do they just mostly like live on Ningaloo Reef, or do they like travel to Shark Bay and the Kimberley and everything?
They do both. Yeah. So when we started doing the turtle research at Ningaloo, we kind of didn't know very much about what they were doing. We had some hunches based on what other people have done elsewhere. But we didn't know much about Ningaloo, so we started doing some satellite tagging. So with satellite tagging, is you get this device and you glue it onto the top of the turtle, the carapace of the turtle, and that sends a signal to the satellites that are orbiting the Earth and tells us where the turtle are. So we started doing that. We've done that more than 45 turtles now.
Oh wow!
And what we've discovered is that there are turtles that live in Ningaloo, and that's home. And they just live there.
Yeah.
And they leave Ningaloo only to go and nest. And so females...
So how come they don't nest there?
Well, that's the thing. We don't know, because there's turtles that do nest at Ningaloo. It's one of the Australia's important nesting areas.
Yeah.
Okay.
And turtles coming from all over Western Australia to nest at Ningaloo, from Shark Bay to the Kimberley, they're coming, and we know that from the satellite tagging.
Yeah.
They're coming from more than 1,000 kilometres away to nest at Ningaloo, but then the turtles that live at Ningaloo don't tend to nest at Ningaloo. They leave and they go and nest in the Pilbara. So, go figure.
Yeah.
It's nature. It's cool. It's curious. It's interesting. Cool. We do a few different types of tagging. So I talked about the satellite tagging where we glue something to the top of the turtle. There's another type of tagging that's much more simple, much more basic, and that's basically we call it a flipper tag. So it's like a cattle ear tag or a sheep ear tag if you know what those look like. It's a titanium tag that we attach to the front flippers of the turtle, and we put one on each side, and those tags stay there for a really, really long time, but you've got to catch the turtle again.
Yes. Oh, to get the data.
To get the data.
Yeah.
because it's just a piece of metal, right?
And does tagging them hurt the turtles at all, or?
Oh, think of it like getting your ears pierced. So have you had your ears pierced?
Yes.
So,
Yes.
you know, did it hurt?
Not really.
Just like temporarily.
Yeah, so, no, there's a little flinch
Yeah.
when you put it in, and then it stays there. So,
Yeah.
you know, we've done that for more than 400 turtles at Ningaloo now, and there's some really cool ones, like this one that we caught in 2017 in the water at Ningaloo, and it had a tag. And so when you jump in the water and you catch the turtle and you find out it's got a tag, there's always that little bit of excitement. You go, oh, cool, and find out, you know, when this was tagged and where it was tagged. Turned out that tag, when we traced it back, had been put on the turtle while it was nesting at Barrow Island in 1987. So that was 30 years earlier. So more than 11,000 days earlier when I calculated it. And it was already 97 centimetres when it was, and it was nesting. So it's an adult female when it was nesting. And then 30 years later, we found it still living at Ningaloo. So it's old turtle.
Yeah.
And have a guess. So in 30 years, have a guess how much it grew. Oh, and there's a
no. This is I don't really know how much turtles grow.
Yeah. Is it in centimetres?
It's in centimetres.
It is in centimetres. Okay.
So it was 97 centimetres.
It started at 97 centimetres.
Wow.
130? As in it got to?
In 30 years, it grew 1.5 centimetres.
1.5 centimetres?
1.5 centimetres? I was thinking like 30, 40 centimetres.
Yeah. I was like, she's going to go big.
So it's like they're super slow. Okay. And one of the very first turtles that we caught and tagged in 2013 was a little one around 55 centimetres. Cute. Very cute. They are super cute. So that one, we've caught it 4 times in the last 8 years.
So it just keeps coming back?
Well, no, it just lives in this one place at Ningaloo, and you know, it must, when it hits the boat coming, it must groan and go, oh no,
not again.
But anyway, so we've caught this like 4 times over 8 years, and it's grown 4.5 centimetres in 8 years. So from 55 to, you know, just about 60 centimetres. So yeah, they're growing slow.
Yeah. So you have like the satellite tags that you use as well, and so I've seen that you also are starting to incorporate like drones into the research and tracking all the turtles. So how does that really work?
Yeah, so when we started, there were a whole bunch of things we didn't know. So we started off trying to answer questions that we could answer, and one of those early questions that we could answer is just, you know, where are they going and what are they doing, and do they live at Ningaloo? Yeah. And are they nesting somewhere else, and those sorts of things. But one of the fundamental questions that as scientists we're trying to work on is what we call population abundance. So basically how many of them are there?
Okay. Yeah.
But that's a really challenging thing to come up with. It's super important. Imagine, you know, you're a turtle conservation director of some kind, and you have to look after the turtles and make sure that there's enough of them. Well, you've got to know how many of them are there, and is that changing with time? So the question is, how do you count turtles? So, you know, we're working on that for the longest time, and trying a few different things with cameras and driving around in boats, and nothing was really working. And then, you know, started hitting on the idea, and we're not the only ones, by the way, of using drones.
Yeah.
So you send the drone up in the sky and you fly it around, and you've got video or photos of the ocean, and you can have a look at them and count the turtles. Or at least you can count the ones that you see. So there's a few challenges there.
Right, so they're not like exactly tracking the turtles, it's just the surroundings that they might be in.
That's right.
Okay.
But there's a few tricks and challenges with doing that, right? So you fly a drone for an hour and a half, you're going to cover about 20-ish hectares of ocean, but you're going to get thousands and thousands of photos.
Yeah, so how do you go through all those?
Right. Yeah. So you've got to get really square eyes, just like looking
Yeah.
Yeah.
thousands and thousands of photos day after day after day. Or you get clever and start using machine learning.
Yeah,
you know,
definitely. Like write an
yeah.
algorithm.
Using-
See if you can-
Definitely.
using
Yep.
computers and AI, basically. So that's what we're trying. We're trying
That's
to
really
see if
cool.
we can
Yeah.
develop ways of, having the drones fly around,
Yep.
catch images of the turtles without
Mhm.
catching the turtles, automatically identify how many turtles there are, and then the next thing is, it's water, right? So you
Yeah.
can only see the ones that are on top.
Yeah.
You can't see the ones that are underneath. So the
Mhm.
next challenge then is seeing, of the turtles that we can see, what's that as a proportion of all of the turtles that are
Of
actually
course.
there.
Yeah.
So that's where the science comes in.
You did mention a little bit ago that when you started, you didn't know a lot about turtles in the Ningaloo. Can I ask, as a broad, what have we learnt now that we're 7 years in? What new stuff have you got to bring to the table?
We've learnt quite a lot, I think. So we learnt about the movement
The movement.
turtles. So we know, for example, that when the turtles are small, they tend to live in shallow water near the shore
Yeah.
Mhm.
and have smallish home ranges, around about 1 kilometre or
Mm.
so.
Cute.
And
That's
as
I love baby turtles.
they are super
That's so cute.
Then when they get bigger, they don't get less cute.
Yeah.
But they do change where they live.
Mhm.
So they're
Mhm.
moving out into slightly deeper water.
Yeah.
They
Mhm.
expand their home range, and then they change their diet as well.
Yeah,
Interesting. So
that's
how does that
interesting.
work?
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
Like, how did you sort of find out about how they were changing their
Changing the diet.
diet and everything?
again, you kind of use the clever science technique. So
Yeah.
we'll try. You start saying, well, how do you figure out what a turtle eats when you can't ask it?
Yeah, what do you
There's-
want to have for dinner?
There is a way, which is an unpleasant way, which is getting the turtle to spew.
Ew.
And,
Ooh.
and for anyone listening outside Australia, that means getting them to vomit.
Gross. All right.
And you can do that, but it's not fun. It's not
No.
fun for us. It's not fun for the turtles.
No.
So I don't like doing it.
Yeah,
and-
we'll leave that option.
Yeah.
We'll
Yeah.
move
Right.
on.
So
We can move
so we
on.
try something else, and so there's these chemical markers that you can find,
Mhm.
and they're called isotopes. So isotopes, everyone knows what
Mhm.
carbon and nitrogen and these elements are. So a little bit of high school chemistry
Yes.
for everyone. And so there's these isotopes. Think of them as flavors of those elements. So you can have
Yeah.
different, and they're slightly different weights, and you can use that to trace food as it moves through
Oh, cool.
a food web. So
Interesting.
we started doing that with the turtles, and there were a couple of things that we were doing. So first of all, you've got to get a little piece of turtle to do that.
Mhm.
So I started doing that by taking a tiny little bit of skin
Okay.
Yeah.
off the flipper, and also using a needle to get some blood out of the
Yeah.
neck. But also, I wasn't too keen on that either, because we catch the turtle, we're trying our best to look after them.
Yes.
We like them, we want to look after them, so
Yeah,
we don't
of
want to hurt
course.
them. And then I was at this conference, and I started talking to a colleague who's an archaeologist,
Mhm.
Ooh.
and I was saying, well, how do you do it? And it turns out that they were like getting off, mummies and sort of preserved remains,
Oh yeah.
hair and fingernails.
Oh.
And
Oh.
and when you think about it, the hair and the fingernail, because it's keratin, so it's protein.
Oh yes.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely.
So it is actually reflecting what you
It is.
ate.
Interesting.
So then-
Okay.
Think about how we're going to do that with turtles. Well, they got no hair,
Yeah.
but
But they got
they do have flipper nails.
Flipper nails.
flipper nails.
So that's what I started doing, is like
Cool.
just basically doing a mani-pedi on
Giving
the
them a
turtle.
little manicure.
and just like taking a little nail clipping
Yeah.
off the
Ooh.
turtle, and the first time I tested, I had absolutely no idea if it was going to work, right?
Mm.
Yeah.
But it did,
Oh, that's amazing.
That's so
And-
clever.
and it gave pretty much exactly the same answer as if I was taking a blood sample or some other sample.
Wow.
So now we can do that without actually,
Hurting them,
causing
yeah.
any discomfort.
And they come to
To the
Ningaloo, they get a full
turtles.
spa treatment,
Spa
you
treatment,
know.
like,
You know, they get to sunbake on the beach for a little while while we're doing it. So, you know, what's not to
Yeah,
like?
exactly. They must love coming here. So I know that you like engage with the Exmouth community and like the high school especially as well. So how does that sort of work? Like, do the kids just love the turtles because they're cute, or
Honestly.
what do you sort of talk with them about or work with them?
Yeah, so we have been working with the Exmouth District High School
Okay.
Year 9 class, and we've done that 6 years in a row.
Wow.
And every year we get the Year 9 class to come out with us for a day and spend a day on the beach studying
Cool.
turtles.
Wow.
So, of course, that's cool.
That's
Students,
cool.
That's really cool.
Everyone loves turtles. Even
Yes.
Year 9 students love turtles. But they get to join us, and so a couple of things happen. They can learn about physics because we talk to them about how satellite tags work. They can learn
Yes.
about chemistry because we can talk to them about how isotopes work. Of course, they can learn about biology.
Yes.
Yeah.
They can learn about all these things that they're learning about as part of the Year 9 curriculum, but they're out seeing how it gets applied in a real-world context to something cute like a turtle.
Like a turtle.
and get to spend a day on the beach.
Of course.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm sold.
Yeah.
I'm sold.
Can we
If
go
I'm
back
in
to
year
year
9? I'm sold. I'm there.
Yeah, but you got to do Year 9 at Exmouth District High School.
Yes.
Okay.
Special
'Cause, you know,
treatment.
they get special treatment. Well,
Yeah.
they're the ones that have to look after
That's true.
Ningaloo,
Yeah.
Yeah.
right? They're the future of Ningaloo.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So, we're just, passing on a little bit of our gratitude to the community by giving them some education, some support,
Yeah.
and hopefully in return, they learn
learn.
something that'll help them to look after the system into the future.
Yeah,
well after
definitely.
I'm gone.
While we're talking about being on the beach, you mentioned something to do with ultrasounds. How does that
Ooh,
work
yeah.
with the turtles? Is
Right.
that specific to nesting, or is that
It
just...
is.
It is?
So remember when I said that we know that the turtles that live at Ningaloo don't nest at Ningaloo?
Yeah.
That was actually a little bit tricky to find out. And so the way that we do that is at the right time of year, so at the mating season, which is at Ningaloo, it's around about October,
Okay.
we go out and we drive around in the boat and we look for the big females that are the right size.
Yeah.
And we catch them. But turtles don't nest every year. They only nest every 5, 6, 7 years when they've got
Really?
enough condition. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So the reason is because there's like 3-4 month period that they don't eat. The turtles stop eating during the nesting. So you've got a
Wow.
100 kilo turtle, and she's going to lay 5, 6, 7 clutches of eggs over the space of a couple of months, and she might have to swim 1,000 kilometres to her nesting beach and back, and so she doesn't eat during that time. So
That's
it's going to
intense.
take her 5 or 6 years to put the weight back on so she can
Of
do it again. So
course.
that's all to say
True.
that not every female turtle of the right size is going to nest. So
Yeah.
we have to find out which ones are going to nest. And so how do we do that? Ultrasound. So we've got, basically it's a veterinary ultrasound. It's in a plastic box, a case that we take down to the beach, and it runs off a battery. And if the battery's flat, I run it off a car battery. and then it runs just like a normal ultrasound. So
cool.
we get the big lady turtles.
Yeah.
And it doesn't work through the shell.
So you have to flip them.
We have to flip them, and we have to find the soft bit at the back of the turtle, and you have to get the ultrasound, the probe bit of the
thing.
ultrasound, and you have to point it at the right area, and it takes a little bit of learning to figure out where the right area is, and then what you're looking for is these sort of mini ping pong ball shaped kind of things that pop up in the ultrasound, and they're small. So they're only, it's about a centimetre or so
Oh wow. They're
across
tiny.
when we're looking for them, because they're still developing. They're just
Yeah.
Of course.
they're not eggs. They're egg follicles that are just
Just like
laying
little
down
bubbles.
just laying down some yolk.
Yeah.
And so they haven't, so that, then the mating happens, then they get fertilised, then because, if you think about it, the shell can't go around before
Yeah.
the eggs get fertilised, right? So,
Yes.
all that's got to happen.
Yeah.
So that's what we use the ultrasound for.
Cool.
And so you can imagine that's hard work, because you might catch 6, 7, 8, 9 turtles, nothing, nothing.
Oh, true.
True.
And then bang, you get one. You go, oh, that's cool.
That's cool.
And
That
so
is
we
very cool.
we usually get only 1 or 2 a year that we can do. So it's
wow.
taken us a long time to get
Wow.
enough turtles
Yeah,
that
it'd be a
we've
slow
got some
process.
confidence to say that we know what's happening.
Yeah.
And all of them that we've done have left Ningaloo to nest. All of them.
Oh wow. That's a trend.
Yeah. And
Trendsetters.
they've all gone to the Pilbara. So
Interesting.
Barrow Island,
Mm.
Montebello Islands. One went almost as far as Broome,
Oh wow.
to the top end of 80 Mile Beach.
That's a long way.
That's a
Yeah,
large
that's a long
exercise
way.
regime that they're following.
Yeah.
So for anyone not familiar with the area, that's about 800 kilometres as the turtle swims,
That's crazy.
Wow.
Yeah.
One way.
one way,
One way.
and then
Oh,
nesting a couple of months,
couple of
and
months
then
back.
coming back.
Wow.
Wow.
That's crazy.
So 3-month, 3-ish.
Round trip.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, cool.
Pretty amazing animals.
Question. What drew you into studying turtles specifically?
And was it because of the turtle in Finding Nemo?
Yes. Because he's pretty cool.
Yeah, but I'd like to say yes, but it wasn't.
Oh,
So I was studying all sorts of things at Ningaloo for a while. I'd been working at Ningaloo and other places around Australia, and I was mostly studying plants. So my PhD's in botany
Oh, wow.
originally, and so I spent a lot of my career studying marine plants, seagrasses and
Yeah.
Mhm.
seaweeds and things that grow underwater like that. And as I'm doing that, I also studied the things that were eating them.
Oh,
I figure,
fun.
if you can't beat them, join them.
Yeah.
And as I'm working in places like Ningaloo and around northwestern Australia, what's out there that's obvious, that's swimming around eating the plants? Well, it's turtles. And so in 2013, I said, well, enough's enough. I'm going to start studying turtles, and by the way, they are pretty cute anyway. So we started working on turtles and haven't looked back, and they're just still discovering things all the time. They are pretty fascinating.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah. They've got a lot to
Definitely.
offer.
I
Yeah.
They've got a
reckon.
lot to offer.
And the tiny ones are so
So
cute. So
cute.
how can you not love them?
That's what I say.
Yeah.
What's not to like?
All right.
So
Well, thanks for talking with us.
Yeah.
Very interesting chat. Covered a lot.
Yeah, thanks so much for inviting me.
No
That was
worries.
a lot
We've
of fun.
loved having you.
Anytime.